Duders, International Feature Film Shortlist is going to be like a battle royale. I feel like Michael Buffer should come in and yell, "Let's get ready to rumble!" I mean, I have gone through 85 films. I've watched all the trailers I could, read the reviews, looked at who's won what, when, where, and I've broken it all down and I've got my top 15. These are the ones I think is going to make the shortlist. So join me as we talk about them. This is the first time in all of my Oscar viewing that I've ever actually tried to predict the International Feature Film Shortlist. And I think it's really hard. Like, I would love to hear what you guys think, or if you've ever tried to do this. Decisions. For me, it really came down to previously won awards, reviews I've read, any trailers that I could find I watched, and then just plain simply reading about the storyline of the movie. I'm going to share a brief storyline of the 15 that I believe are going to make the short list, but I didn't want to forget about the number 16 through 25 that I thought sounded good and to me were kind of right on that bubble. I'm not going to go into like detail on them, but I'm going to share my entire list of 25. I'll put them in the description, so look them up. Watch the trailer if you can, and then let me know what your guys' opinions are. So, starting with number 25, I've got Palestine's From Ground Zero. Number 24, Argentina's Kill the Jockey. This is actually one of 2 LGBTQ films that were submitted in the International Feature Film category. Number 23, Hungary's Selenvice. Number 22, the movie Queens from Switzerland. 21, The Wrestler from the country of Bangladesh. Number 20, Indonesia's selection Woman from Rhode Island. Number 19 is Bulgaria's movie Triumph. Number 18, Romania's 3 Kilometers to the End of the World. Number 17 was The Last Ones from the country of Paraguay. And then number 16, that run right on the bubble for me, was Netherlands' Memory Lane. There are 3 documentaries in this. There are 3 documentaries submitted in the International Feature Film category. 2 of them made my top 15. One of them did not, but it sounded really good. That's Sweden's The Last Journey. So I'm going to put that in as like an honorable mention. Now we're going to get into my 15. These are the 15 that, in my opinion, are going to make the short list. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever done this, and so it'll be interesting to know what my prediction percentage is. After the short list comes out, I will definitely tweet out what my match percentage or win percentage, prediction percentage is. I'll be honest, because you guys are going to know what I picked, and so if you guys actually tracked yours, let me know. At number 15, I've got The Glassworker out of Pakistan. This is one of 2 animated films that was actually nominated for International Feature Film. The other animated one I've got up in my top 5, so we'll talk about that one in a little bit. But this movie, there was something about reading the story and seeing the animation. I mean, this is the first time Pakistan has ever entered an animated film for their selection, and let me tell you, the animation is beautiful. They hand drew every frame of it. It reminds me of the beautiful animated feature film that won last year, The Boy and the Heron. I mean, just beautiful. And I think there's something so artsy when it comes to animation that can tell stories that we maybe couldn't convey through actors. And so the story is and follows a young son who's the glass worker, and kind of as he's learning the trade, and it's him and his anti-war father. He's also anti-war, but all of a sudden war is coming into their village, and this is loosely based on Pakistan, but so kind of villages being torn apart, and in moves this colonel and his daughter who's a violinist, and of course the son and the daughter fall in love, and everything just goes, haywire, right? Because their fathers don't like who the other one's dating because of their beliefs, right? Because one's a colonel and is very war, and then the other father's very anti-war, and it puts this strain on their relationship. But what's interesting to me is the way it reminds us that back in that time, love didn't play any place in people's decision, right? their free feelings, their thoughts didn't matter. It was all about your loyalty to family, your country, your political state. And so to me, I think this is definitely one that needs to make the short list. At number 14, I chose Lithuania's Drowning Day, also known as Cesis. I'm really bad at pronouncing names, guys. Like I said, born, raised South Dakotan, so I'm sure to some of you I have a Midwest accent. I don't think I do, but I apologize in advance for saying names wrong. But what caught my eye was this film won Best Director and Best Cast Ensemble at Locarno, which is an international film festival, like a really huge one based out of Switzerland. And they won that. And then when I was able to watch the trailer and read about it, it sounded like something that would grab the Academy audience along with the everyday viewer. It tells a story of two sisters who decide to go celebrate down at a lakeside cabin with their husbands and their kids, and everybody's having a great old time. And all of a sudden, though, one of the kids falls into the lake and she can't swim. And so she drowns, and it's dealing with the aftermath of how does that impact those families, right? Because they're sisters, but now one of them has lost their child. And we learn about the accident and more details about it through a series of flashbacks. My hope is the flashbacks are done well, because that can make or break a film. Like Challengers did flashbacks in a great way, but I can't wait to see this film to see how they did with it. But it's telling the story and revealing the accident. And so to me, it sounded like something that could appeal to all voters. And the fact that it's an international film, I really am excited to see it. My number 13 choice is In Her Place from the country of Chile. This one, I was very interested in by simply reading the description of it. But then when I found out who directed it, it got even more intriguing. So it's from director, and I'm going to slaughter the name, Mati Alberdi, and they're a well-known director when it comes to the International Feature Film category, and their films getting nominations. So in 2020, they did The Mole, and then in 2023, they had The Eternal Memory. So this is this director's first fiction work. That excites me. I'm kind of pumped up. The story is set in 1955 Chile around the case of Maria Carolina Gell. Basically, Maria kills her lover in public, so everyone sees it, everybody knows she's guilty. This film, however, looks at it through the character of the paralegal. The paralegal who works for the judge. I guess they call their attorneys judges in Chile, so okay. I digress, but the paralegal who works for the judge, who's been assigned to represent Maria, is enthralled with this case. Like, everything about it just becomes like their whole world. And so through this paralegal's eyes, we see the murder and we learn another truth about the murders, right? Kind of like there's more than meets the eye. And who doesn't love a murder mystery movie? Plus, this well-known international film director, that's why it definitely had to make my list at number 13. I chose, from the country of Mongolia, If Only I Could Hibernate. Okay, the title alone piqued my interest. Then I heard it got rave reviews at the Cannes Film Festival in 2023 when it premiered. So, of course, I'm like, all right, am I going to let that sway my decision? Found out that this is actually the director's first time ever feature film. So then I was like, oh God, is it going to like suck? Like, what's it about? And when I read about it, I just want to see it. This movie, right away when I read the description, made me think like, oh, is this like an international Good Will Hunting? Even though I don't know that the kid's a genius, but the movie chronicles the life of this boy who lives in Mongolia in a very harsh winter, and he just wants to better himself, and he's trying to win this scholarship through a physics competition. So he's obviously smart to some extent, but he's just trying to better himself. But at the same time, he's dealing with his everyday life that happens. He's being raised with his two siblings by a single mom who, by the way, happens to be illiterate, and they're basically from the description I read, barely able to make ends meet. And all of a sudden then the mom finds a job in the countryside and leaves this boy and his two siblings out there in this harsh winter to fend for themselves. So I was like, oh my gosh, this kid's trying to like be better and now he's got to raise his two, siblings. Which one is going to take priority? And it's kind of that age-old story of ambition versus adversity. Which is going to triumph? Will both triumph? And so I don't know how it ends. All I know is that to me, based on what I saw in the other 85 movies, this one had to make the short list. So it is my number 12 pick. South Korea and their choice of the film 12/12 The Day. The movie sounds good, but I think what pushed me over the edge to put it on the short list was finding out it was the number one grossing movie in South Korea in 2023, grossing $97 million, and it only cost $17 million to make. It also was the number one most watched film, well, viewed film as they call it, in 2023. The number sixth highest viewed movie ever in South Korea, and the number 4 highest grossing film ever in South Korea. Beyond this movie being high grossing, high viewed when it comes to South Korea, the film itself is what got to me. The film dramatizes the day of December 12th, 1979. The day that basically changed the political landscape of South Korea forever. That was the day that President Park was assassinated, and how all the military coups and things that happened thereafter have really shaped who South Korea is today, and how when General Cho Do-hum or something like that ended up taking control, what does that look like? And I was like, well, what's I get the December 12th, but the day. Well, the film follows minute by minute the account of what happened. It's like captures all the chaos, all the mayhem, and it's told through many different perspectives. Kind of like if you think about the old school movie like Vantage Point, with Sigourney Weaver and all that, and Forrest Whitaker. Like, it's basically supposedly told through like different perspectives. I'm sure not like Vantage Point, but it's told through like political activists who were there at the time, political leaders, journalists, everyday civilians, maybe military people. And so I think when you understand what happens in one day, minute by minute, and how it can change a country, it makes me think I can't imagine that it will be more than like probably 5 years when we get a documentary called January 6th that follows minute by minute and the impact that happened on our country. Or maybe we don't actually get a documentary like that till, 50 years later, since, this South Korea one took place in 1979. Either way, stoked to see this movie. Has to make the short list, number 11. The next film on my list made National Board of Review's top 5 best international feature films of the year. It is called Universal Language, and it's out of Canada. This is an absurd comedy that pays homage to old Iranian cinema, I guess. So like, the way it describes it, it just sounds hilarious to me, and I want to see it so bad, but it looks at and takes place in the Canadian cities of Montreal and Winnipeg. And for those of you Canadians out there, I did follow a very specific process when determining my top 15. So, yep, I know. Process, love it. Say it all the time to annoy my Midwest friends. But, okay, I digress. The story basically says what happens if French and Farsi would have become Canadians' only 2 official languages. Beyond this movie sounding flippin' hilarious, it also piqued my interest because it won the first ever audience award at the Directors Fortnight event this year. And so I was like, well, one, what's Directors Fortnight? And that's been going on, I guess, since like 1969. It runs parallel to the Cannes Film Festival, and they show like features, shorts, documentaries, things like that. But this was the first time they ever had an audience award, and hands down, they picked it as their audience winner. And my next film is that other documentary I was talking about. Remember how I said there were 3 documentaries entered for International Feature Film? Honorable mention went to, Sweden's The Last Journey. Then we got number 25, Palestine's From Ground Zero. Well, this one is out of Senegal, and it's called Dahomey. film is a documentary essay about colonialism, cultural history, and tells the story of 26 royal artifacts that were stolen by the French government back in 1892. And it voices kind of a new generation's look at, okay, these 26 royal artifacts got stolen from our country. They're not being displayed in a museum in Paris. Like, we don't own them and never owned them. And it follows the return of these artifacts back to the original village of Benin. It sounds compelling to me because I think about stories and movies that we've seen where we're discussing, okay, what happens when you find this property that was stolen during the course of war, and in those countries' minds that stole it, rightfully so, what happens to that, and how does our current generation view that sort of atrocity, as we'll say. So that makes my number 9 list, and that is, definitely going to make the documentary shortlist. So I'm calling that one. Hopefully I'm right tomorrow. I'll tweet that out also. Okay, we're now going to go into my 8th choice on the short list. And I'm going to tell you guys, 6, 7, and 8 are definitely on the bubble for me. It would not surprise me if after the shortlist is announced and if we get big pushes for these movies that one of them doesn't sneak into place 4 or 5. Like I said, I've got 3 locked down. My 4 and 5 are questionable, so stick with me. We're going to find out what those 5 are that I think are going to get the nomination. So, okay, my number 8 choice, I'm not going to lie. The title alone will probably make people want to see it. It definitely piqued my interest. Maybe that's even why Thailand chose it. How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. Okay, right off the bat, please tell me this is a funny movie. It's got to be, right? Oh my gosh, yes. It tells the story, and okay, not even going to try to say the guy's name, but some like really famous Thailand pop star. Yeah, this guy over here. Okay. Famous pop star. This is the first movie he's ever been in, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with why this film grossed $50 million, $12.4 million alone in Thailand. But, I mean, it had to gross the other $37.6 million somewhere else, so the movie must be good. It follows the story of a kid, university dropout, who decides that he's going to be super sweet, be the martyr of the family, and he's going to go take care of his terminally ill grandma who's got cancer. And, he's going to win her over, love and affection, and get this inheritance. But he finds out grandma's not quite so easy to win over. What does that look like? We don't know. All I know is, to me, when I watched the trailer, I felt warm, fuzzy, laughed. It reminded me a lot of Taiwan's short film last year, Nana and Wapao, the one about the 2 grandmas, and the grandson follows them around for like a day and they live together and sleep in the same bed. I'm hoping that this is that same sort of feel-good type movie that it sounds like. Hoping that's what this is. I mean, at the New York Asian Film Festival, they did choose this as the audience winner, so I had to put it in there. My number 7 is The Girl with the Needle out of Denmark. You've probably heard about this one as it was nominated for a Golden Globe for International Feature Film. People were actually shocked it didn't make the Critics' Choice list of 6, but again, that's why I'm saying that 4th and 5th spot are kind of up in the air. This story seems very timely in the environment we're in today. The film follows a woman who's single, recently unemployed, and she is pregnant. And she's forced with the difficult decision of a potentially fatal and illegal abortion, or giving her child up to this sketchy, dodgy adoption agency. She ends up meeting this guy who runs the adoption agency, and she draws a really strong bond or connection with him, but she doesn't exactly like what he's doing, right? He runs a very shady adoption agency that they refer to as the candy shop. Like, I guess when you go in and you say, I want a box of Whoppers, it's like just ordering a kid out of the candy shop. This one for cinematography, it won like a Golden Frog at the Cambridge Film Festival. People are definitely talking about it. I mean, it made the Golden Globes list. I think it's drawing a parallel connection that a lot of people are seeing in today's environment with where abortion stands in the United States. And so it's on the bubble for me. It's not going to make my top 5, but it's definitely at number 7. In my last video, we talked about, will the Golden Globes influence the Oscars, right? And does it influence your predictions, my predictions? Obviously not so much on international feature film, because my last one was nominated for a Globe and I'm putting that at number 7. This one also nominated for a Globe and I'm putting it at number 6. It is Italy's Choice, Vermiglio. Beyond the Globe nomination, the director of this film did win the Silver Jury Prize at the Venice Film Festival, and the director has said that this is loosely based on her life. And the film follows a Sicilian army deserter and what happens when he comes into this town and he meets this teacher and his family, and what happens during the course of, again, these relationships. So kind of like how my number 15 choice was the Glassworker, and how this anti-war son falls in love with a colonel's daughter. Well, here you've got this army deserter who falls in love with the eldest daughter of this teacher, and we learn what happens to their worlds and how quickly everything can change. Now, I don't know, good, bad, indifferent. All I know is what I've read, and what I've read makes me want to see more. And based on the critics' reviews of it, I'm putting it in at my number 6. I'm not going to lie, guys. We are now into my top 5. These are the 5 that I think are going to end up being nominated for international feature film. And like I said, this was tough. My 4 and 5 are tough. Here it goes. At number 5, I put in Ireland's film Kneecap. Yep, that's right. I chose Kneecap back in August. And I guess what makes me want to see it, well, beyond the fact that one of the interesting things I found while researching all these films was Ireland was the first country this year to submit their movie in for Oscar contention. The only other time Ireland has been first was in 2022 for The Quiet Girl, and they actually did get the nomination. So maybe there's something to be said for that, but I digress. This movie is a comedy quasi-biopic about the group Kneecap, who actually is a trio rap group out of Ireland who rap predominantly in Irish. But the film follows the story of a Belfast teacher who meets self-confessed low-life scum, who are the Kneecap group, and how he's trying to, the teacher, put an end to hip-hop. And so in order to save hip-hop and their native language, their mother tongue, they rap in Irish and they go around trying to save their mother tongue. I have no idea what this looks like. All I know is that with all of the critical acclaim and the trailer and reading about it, I'm already laughing internally and cannot wait to see it. So that's my number 5 that is getting a nomination. Number 4 on my list that I do believe is getting an Oscar nomination, There for a While was on a lot of people's list as a potential Best Picture contender. And I think some people might still have it on. And that is Germany's The Seed of the Sacred Fig. This has been nominated for a Golden Globe and a Critics' Choice Award. Interesting fact, the director actually escaped on foot from the country of Iran just days before this movie premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. So that's kind of nuts to think about. But the story starts out as a drama. It follows a paranoid judge who loses his gun. He can't find it. He blames his wife. He blames his daughters. Everything is going like crazy around him. And he slowly starts to become more paranoid, and he imposes these like draconian type measures on his own wife and daughter, and it just gets worse and worse as the state is like cracking down on all its citizens. And so like all of this pressure and everything is coming around him, and he just feels like he's going to implode. So this drama now kind of turns into a horror, scary, like what is happening to this judge? How is he treating his family? And so I have not seen it. I cannot wait to see it. I mean, I think the fact that people were even talking about this for a Best Picture contender, and the fact that it's a drama turned into a horror, definitely has to be making the nomination list. And so this is my number 4. Again, this number 4 and 5 are where people are going to disagree. My next 3, to me, are solid locked. Number 3 is one that people won't say is a solid lock. This next film, to me, is a solid lock in international feature film. And so, to me, there's no question about it. It's making the top 5. I do get a little concerned, though, because, like, the Globes did not nominate it in international feature. They only nominated an animated feature, but Critics' Choice nominated in both. And so I'm talking about Latvia's animated film, Flow. This is the second of the 2 animated films that were nominated in international feature. The other one was Pakistan's The Glassworker, which I have at number 15. So hopefully both of these make it for international feature. But I think when I watched the trailers and just, I mean, my heart like melted. I felt so like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And part of that could be because I love cats. I have 2 cats of my own. One I rescued from the Humane Society and one I rescued from the campground because he just won over my heart. But here's the story of a cat who has lost his home to flooding, right? There's no FEMA to call. There's nobody. There's no place to go. And I think about how sad I am every time I think of like a poor little cat that's like left on his own. And I mean, cartoons also melt my heart. But this cat has lost his home to a flood. Right? There's waters everywhere. There's no like FEMA for him to call. And, you know, I think about all those little, you know, cats out there that don't have homes. So reminder, please spay or neuter your animals. But okay. So he's looking for a home and he needs help because he's trying to go through all these waters. I say he, but it might be a she. I don't actually know. They are trying to get through all these waters and they enlist the help of a dog, a bird, a lemur, and a capybara. So we have to remember the story is from Latvia. But this cat is trying to like work his way through finding a home, flowing through these waters, I'm guessing is why it's called Flow, or maybe the cat's name is Flow. I don't know for sure. All I know is that it has won a ton of awards. This thing is for sure, in my opinion, a lock for international feature film and a lock for animated feature film. So let's go Flow. These next 2 probably are not a surprise for a lot of you. But as I've said, this channel is not meant for just cinephiles. It's meant for the everyday viewer who might not spend a lot of time researching. But these next 2 films are pretty much a lock. The question becomes which one of them gets number 1. And my pick may surprise you. So in the number 2 spot is the other LGBTQ plus movie in the international feature film category, and that is France's Emilia, Perez. This story follows the lawyer, Zoe Saldana, who, by the way, this is her first Spanish-speaking movie ever. And people can say, well, she's not very good in it. Well, you know what, guys? She is nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress and has won other awards. But we're not here to talk about Zoe. We're here to talk about international feature film. But it follows the defense lawyer's story of helping this drug cartel kingpin, played by Carla Sofia Gascon, who will be nominated for actress in a leading role, and how this drug cartel kingpin wants to basically finally live their life and live as a woman. And what does that look like as they're getting out of this, you know, Mexican crime family, and they're married to Selena Gomez's character, who is also nominated for Best Supporting Actress, Golden Globe, music or comedy. But the entire movie just has got film Twitter all a-buzzing and not in good ways. There's all this negativity backlash that, from what I've read and seen in other places by like actual movie critics, it's all unnecessary, just noise. I do think it's going to win a lot of awards, or at least be nominated a lot for the Oscars. I mean, it got 10 nominations alone for Golden Globes. I mean, Best Picture, Best International Picture, I mean, Best Director, and then obviously the actress ones. But I don't know that the Academy will want to give it Best International Feature Film. So that's why I have it at number 2. Not that it's not a worthy movie. I mean, it's going to be a lock-in. I just think the Academy will be like, let's give something that maybe isn't so popular, which isn't fair to Emilia Perez. I get it. But I think they're going to give the win to my number 1 choice, which is, if I'm not picking Emilia Perez as my winner in International Feature Film, who the heck am I picking? Now, for some of you novices, you might be like, oh, I've heard all this stuff about All We Imagine Is Light out of India. That's got to be what you're picking for number 1. Sorry, guys, but you can't pick it as the winner for International Feature Film. Why? I'll tell you why. Because India screwed up again. Yep, that's right. They did not choose this film. They did not choose All We Imagine Is Light as their contender for International Feature Film. Nope, you know what they chose? Lost Ladies. Yeah, a movie you've never even heard of, right, guys? It's a story about 2 Indian women on a train in like 2001 and how they end up swapping places on the way to their future husbands' homes. And it's a comedy about all the crazy things that ensue when they've switched places. And, you know, India's saying it's more representative of who they are as a country and tells more of their story. They felt All We Imagine Is Light was too European and didn't represent India enough. And hate to break it to them, but Lost Ladies is not going to make it in on the shortlist. You blew an opportunity to not only secure a nomination with All We Imagine Is Light, but you probably lost the opportunity to take home a win. This isn't the first time India has screwed up with not nominating the right film. In 2023, they nominated Last Film Show instead of the widely popular RRR. RRR made money, was critically acclaimed, and people just, loved it, right? But India, the selection committee of India, I should say, didn't feel it represented India enough. There was not historical accuracy. It was too Bollywoodish. It didn't show the right India to people. And so they didn't nominate it. And yep, lo and behold, RRR actually won Best Original Song for Natu Natu, which is quite catchy when you hear it and you can't kind of get it out of your head then. And I'm not saying that India would have won that year. Let's be honest, Germany's All Quiet on the Western Front was definitely winning International Feature Film that year, but you messed up and you screwed yourself out of a nomination. So great job, India. And this year, you've now screwed yourself out of a nomination and a possible win with All We Imagine Is Light. So I don't know why you keep saying that it's too European. Here it is, guys, my number 1 choice. The movie that I think is going to win the Oscar for Best International Feature Film. I have chosen I'm Still Here from Brazil. Yep, that's right, guys. This is the movie I'm choosing over Emilia Perez. Let's be honest, the far right of Brazil tried to get people to boycott this film. It didn't work. 1.4 million people have viewed it. And then it's received accolade upon accolade upon accolade from all the critics, right? At Venice, it received Best Screenplay. It also received the Green Drop Award, which basically means we think that the movie promotes, environmental, ecologically sound things. Then it won the Cygnus Award, which comes from the World Catholic Organization that promotes human dignity, peace, justice. So obviously that movie spoke to that group. It won the Miami Film Critics Audience Award. And most recently, Critics' Choice nominated for International Feature Film, Golden Globes nominated for International Feature Film. Oh, yes, and that's right. Also, Fernanda Torres got the Actress nomination at the Globes, which was a surprise, but also well-deserved from everything I hear. I've not seen this movie yet. I cannot wait. But one of the things I found out in my research was this actually is a movie based on a screenplay that was based on a 2015 book of the same name. So that's kind of cool and also very exciting. I think this film's storyline is going to tug at people's heartstrings. It's a story of a woman who's trying to reinvent herself after her family's life is shattered by an arbitrary act of violence. It's taking place during the military dictatorship of Brazil in 1971, and this violence that occurs destroys this woman, and how she rebuilds herself and her family, hence the title, I'm Still Here. It sounds profound. It is one of those movies that when you watch the trailer, you can just feel the emotion coming from Fernanda Torres. I mean, you can see why she garnered the Globe nomination for Best Actress. So, I don't know, guys. That's who I'm choosing as my winner. So, is my 15 films that I believe are going to make the shortlist for International Feature Film. Fingers crossed. Once the predictions come out, I will be tweeting what my prediction rate was, so be sure to check that out. Like and subscribe for future videos. And please, I want to know your opinions on International Feature. Put them in comments. Let's start a conversation. I'm going to keep on reviewing all of the movies, all of the categories through my ADHD point of view. So until next time.